Hi, my name's Tim. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about a book that I've just finished reading, and it's quite controversial, and that is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. This is the sequel to Ready Player 1, an incredibly popular book, a book that I gave 5 stars to, a book that was in the zeitgeist. It had a film adaptation directed by Steven Spielberg. Incredible. And then this book came out, and not as well received, poorly received, I would actually say, by critics. It's rated 3.4, I think, on Goodreads, which is very low for a book with that many ratings as well. The original is rated 4.2, 4.3, so big drop in quality. And when you look up reviews, you see lots of complaints about the plot, the characters, and the themes, and it's quite a controversial book. And I think it does things that I think are really, really interesting. And I don't know if they were on purpose or if they were just things that I took from it. And ultimately, any piece of writing, you take from it what you can. So I just wanted to run through this complicated book, or my complicated feelings about this book. So, mild spoilers for Ready Player One, but we follow in the first book we follow Wade Watts, who is a geek. He's a nerd, and he is the underdog. The point of the first book is to find 3 keys, go through 3 gates, and find the ultimate Easter egg in this thing called the Oasis, a virtual reality. Created by a genius, a tortured soul, in someone called James Halliday. And the winner will get all of James Halliday's fortune, who's like the richest man in the world, like a crazy amount of money, and have all of their problems solved, and be the ruler of the Oasis. And Wade Watts is someone called, well, they call them Gunters, or Egg Hunters. And he is the ultimate underdog, because he has no money, he has nothing. All he has is his life in the Oasis. And he goes up against a character called Nolan Sorrento, who is part of a big company that's like a conglomerate of people trying to find this Easter egg and take over the Oasis and put ads everywhere and all that kind of thing. Ultimate evil capitalism. And Wade Watts is the underdog, and the only thing that he has in his corner is his obsession. Now, something that I found really interesting in Ready Player One is the culture of the Gunters and how they talk about canon and world, and it was all about James Halliday. It was, he liked this band, he liked this song, he liked this film, he liked these video games. So these people put that into their personality. Wade Watts was a huge Halliday fanboy, and anything that Halliday liked, he liked. Partly because he had to find out any clues, to find out what these Easter eggs were, to find the keys and the gates, and to win the Oasis. The thing is at the end, he gets everything that he wants. But the key part of his character that drove him to get everything that he wants is obsession, addiction, things that can't be solved by just having money. This is set, I think it's 3 years after. And for the first third half of the book, some people say for the whole book, Wade is not a good person. And the thing is that he hasn't changed in his personality. It's just the tools that he has at his disposal are greatly different. So he's got like bazillions of money. He's got all the money in the world. And in the Oasis, he has these robes, which means he can go anywhere, do anything he pleases, be completely unmonitored and unseen in this Oasis. but he still has the obsessive personality because that's who he is. He has an obsession, an addiction to trivia and to finding out things. He also still has a tremendous amount of hero worship over James Halliday, the creator of the Oasis, or co-creator of the Oasis. And now he has billions at his disposal. So he does, especially at the beginning, he does lots of really quite despicable things because he still has a tremendous amount of insecurity, only he has the money to do stuff about it now. In the first book, he is the underdog. In this book, he is like the overdog. He is evil capitalism. He has the ability to do anything that he wants. Things that he couldn't do before. But he still has those insecurities at the core of his character, which means he does horrible things. And the rest of the group, his friends, they call themselves the High Five, have all used the money from the Oasis and have progressed in their lives. They have relationships, they have causes that they're wishing to push. Some of them have family, and one of them, they're about to have a child. All Wade has is the stuff that his money can buy and the Oasis. He's still obsessed. He's still addicted. He's still incredibly insecure and has no emotional intelligence. And he didn't have that in the first book. He didn't have those things. He still struggled with those things. Only there were bigger struggles that he had to deal with because he had no money and the evil corporate were about to get him and he wanted to save the Oasis and he was on an honourable quest. And he was the underdog. So we appreciated him. And now he has everything on his side apart from internally. And I found that really, really interesting to read. Because he still has the passion, the knowledge, the trivia. He has the intelligence quota, but he doesn't have the emotional intelligence. He still is emotionally stunted in his brain chemistry. So he has absolute power, but he doesn't use it well in the first part of the book. And I found that really, really interesting to read. Lots of people hate it, and that's okay. But in this, the protagonist is not heroic, especially not at the start. And then the plot kicks in. For example, this is not really spoilerish, but there is, when the plot starts, he is really struggling with it. He's struggling to find this next thing, and he just opens up and says, "Hey, I will pay you $1 billion to find it for me." He says that, and that is the most evil, capitalistic. I'm not gonna do the work, but he is doing the work. He's just looking for help because he needs to find the thing. He just needs it. Like, $1 billion is worth less to him than just being able to find something in the Oasis that he thinks he should be able to find. How insecure must you be? Yeah, so then the plot happens. The plot starts happening, and it's very similar to the first one. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's a complete rehash." It's not quite a rehash, but it is similar. Only there is two. Obviously, Wade is in a different place because of where his status and his friendship group were in a very different place. But also, there's two key sides to this quest. One of them is about James Halliday himself. How he was, in the first book, Wade sees him as a genius, a tortured soul who died young due to illness, and could never really figure out people, but was a genius. And that was the kind of phrase I think they used. It could never really figure out people. In this book, Halliday you realise that he doesn't just not understand people. He doesn't understand what people are. He views them as tools to use, manipulate, to do anything that he wants. Which is what Wade does. Wade and James Halliday are very similar. And I think that's a really, really strong mirror. And it shows, because in the first part of the book, there's not that much about James Halliday. And then as it comes out, you realise that they are mirrors, or they have the potential to be. Because James Halliday uses his power, his clout, his money to do things that are horrible and despicable. And Wade is starting to do those things. So I think that works really well. The quest itself to go find the things, I found that really interesting. I found that enjoyable. Not as enjoyable, I would say, as the first book, but I still found it enjoyable. But one thing that really cranked it up was the ticking clock. There is a ticking clock in this, which really, really adds pressure to the whole situation, which the first book didn't have a ton of. It was like they would spend weeks, months trying to find the next clue. Well, this one they have a very short period of time because there is a real ticking clock that they need to do that. It does mean that the plot is very go do the thing, then go do the next thing, then go do the next thing, then go do the next thing. And I thought, reading this, I was like, there is a huge level of coincidences here that fall apart when you first think about it, in that these people all happen to know exactly the right thing to do for the next challenge. The next challenge is about this. Oh, wow, someone knows lots about that by coincidence. And I thought, reading it, and I was like, this is a huge leap here that I'm taking, that they all just happen to know the best thing to do in this situation. A huge convenience. And I thought maybe the antagonist had known this and set it up on purpose, because it is kind of set for Wade. But no, that doesn't come up. Maybe I missed it in reading it, or it was in and then got taken out by editing. But it just means there's a huge convenience that, hey, we need to go look at this thing. Oh, luckily, I know all about this thing. We need to go look at this thing. Oh, luckily, you know all about this thing. And that happens like 4 or 5, 6 times. And so I can understand why people don't like that. Me, I still think the Oasis as a space allows you to do things that you would never be able to do in any other kind of fiction that I've read before. So visually exciting to imagine it, to see it all happening, such craziness going on. And this is when so another big thing that people complain, especially about the first one and this, is that it's just you poking you and go, hey, do you remember this thing? Do you remember this thing? So for me, of the 4 or 5, however many kind of challenges they do in the quest, I don't know a lot about them. I don't have... One of them I kind of know a bit about, but it's not as if like, hey, Tim, this is all the stuff that you like, and that's why you like this book. A whole section's about John Hughes movies. A whole section's about Prince. A whole section's about an old 80s Japanese video game. I don't know any of these things. I know a little bit about Prince, but I'm not like a huge mega fan of Prince. So it's not just me getting Easter eggs and liking them. You know, that's not what it's about. In fact, one of the quests they have to do isn't even something that exists in our world yet. It's something that exists in the future that Wade does a lot when he's a kid. Their equivalent of Sesame Street or something like that. But it's not. It's all original IP. So it's not even like triggering those nostalgia buttons. But I did spot a few Easter eggs, which I did enjoy. But it wasn't about that for me. And I think the thing with this is, I'm trying to find it. The ending, they complete the thing, the ticking clock is turned off, and the final kind of section of the book, final 2 chapters, are about a really interesting sci-fi concept that I was not expecting to read about in this. And the last chapter, I think, as well, is told in a slightly different way. And you start reading it and you're like, what is going on here? What is going on here? And then it hits and you're like, wow, that's good. Just the framing device, I really enjoyed it. So it does tackle some especially at the end, some really interesting concepts that have been done in sci-fi before about memory and mortality and consciousness and things like that, you know. But to have them in here, I found really interesting. But and it shows how, like, Wade starts to learn to change his ways, and he seems to make a lot of growth. But the first book shows that Wade's obsession is a good thing. I think in the first book, I think one of the challenges is he has to say the whole script of the film War Games perfectly, otherwise he will die. I think that's one of the challenges that he has to do. So that's not, he's in the film and he just has to reenact the whole film from start to finish with no mistakes. Like, that's an incredible level of knowledge and obsession. Like, an addict would, even if you watch War Games every day, I think you would struggle to do that. So he does that. And in this book, and you know, in the first book he wins because of his obsession. And in this one he almost loses because of his obsession. And you see with Halliday that Halliday lost because of his obsession. So for me, the plot isn't as good. It's not as interesting. It's still pretty good. I still enjoyed it while on the roller coaster of ups and downs. It's still a well put together. I just didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. But for me, I found it much more engaging on Wade's psychology and how you could give a man everything, but he's still a little boy in his mind. And those insecurities really, really play a part. So I gave this 5 stars. It's between 4 and 5, but I could understand why people didn't like it, but I think I'm going to do that thing on the internet. I think if you didn't like it, then you might have been missing what they were aiming for, or I've completely extracted something that is not here. That could be the case, but I don't believe that to be the case. But I think it's a really... I was scared of reading this. My bookmark's just fallen out. I was scared of reading this because the reviews have been so bad. And I'm really glad I did, because I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it in a way that I was not expecting to. So, there we go. Let me know in the comments below if you've read this book and what you thought of it. And please give this video a like. Please subscribe. I'm almost at 50 now, so that's good. Let's hope to move that up. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.